Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and today I'm reviewing an IP camera that I've received for Banggood. I've received this free of charge for this review video, and this is a Wanscam K23 Wi-Fi IP camera. If you feel like that the audio of this review, or at least the beginning of it, is not really synchronized with the video that you see on the screen, that's because I decided to record the audio part of it because I feel that I know much more about this camera than what I did in the beginning when I started unboxing it. And just to summarize, this is a 31 odd USD outdoor Wi-Fi IP camera with an app. And I think that pretty much explains the whole thing, and the reason that I wanted to summarize the 31 USD, because I'm going to go through the features, and for every features I'm going to say what is not so good about this camera. But I have to say that that's because this is a $31 camera. So if you want a really good image quality, you have to spend more money than that. But you are getting all the essential features. This camera just works. It delivers the functions that it promises, and I think it has some nice quirks on top of it that I'm going to talk about in this video. So in a summary, I'm quite happy with this camera. Actually, I expected less, and I think I've got a little bit more. And actually, let me go through the main features, and then when I talk about these features, I'm also going to talk about some of the caveats in all of these features. So first of all, it is an outdoor IP camera, and I think that's fine. It has a good case, and I'm pretty sure it would be able to withstand the outside weather. It has Wi-Fi, so the only thing you need is an external power source, and of course there is a power pack provided with this camera. That power pack is not outdoor rated, so if you can't get the power from inside, you have to make sure that you put it in a watertight enclosure. And besides having the Wi-Fi antenna, if you want to, you can run this camera from a wired internet as well. In the listing, it is advertised as a full HD camera. And I think it is certainly full HD, because when you look at the image and when you look at the feed, it says that it is full HD. So 1920 by 180p, but the quality is definitely not full HD. Especially if you look at the listing and you try to look at the pictures that are appearing on the listing, that is just straight marketing lie. And this is why I said this is like a $31 camera, because I think in that price range, you can expect a camera which says it's full HD, and the stream is full HD, but the image quality is just not there. It's mostly the resolution, and you are going to see some sample video clips on as I talk, and you can see that it doesn't really have the clarity, it doesn't really have the resolution. The feed is actually very blocky. The frame rate is about 10 or 12 frames per second, which I think it's okay. That's pretty much the same even with the more expensive cameras. Probably. I mean, of course, I wouldn't say all, but you can really see in the picture. So it looks like that the original image has gone through a lot of filtering, because there are some really harsh edges, a lot of artifacts from the compression. And when you look at it on the mobile app, it looks great, because it only takes like half of your screen, and for that I think it's perfect. Even the low resolution feed looks okay in the image, but once you are trying to display the actual footage on your laptop, then you can really see the the lack of quality. But having said that, I think still the image itself is good. The colors are are pretty much okay. The colors are not really washed out. The exposure of the image is okay. In most of my sample footages, you see a part of my house which has a white render, and that is absolutely washed out. But at least the rest of the image, like when I walk past, my face is completely visible. It's not too dark, and in the overall balance of the image is right. Just like with most of the cameras that you can buy nowadays, the camera itself has an SD card, so all the recording is stored locally on the camera, and it works pretty much the same way for this camera as well. The camera comes with a mobile app, which has all the usual features that you would expect from a security camera mobile app. So you can add your cameras. Of course, it can handle multiple cameras from the same brand. You can view the live footage, you can view it when you are on the local network, you can also view it if you are on the 3G or mobile network. You can, besides looking at the live footage, you can look at the recordings on the phone and also make settings to the camera. Only with the mobile app, you can make everything that you need with this camera: settings, viewing, and, managing not only this, but, all your cameras around the house. And if I want to talk about a couple of extra features that I haven't expected for this camera. So first thing, obviously from the listings I knew that it has two-way audio, so it works like an intercom. This is not usually provided for most of the cameras, so you really have to look for one which actually does that. And I do a separate test on the actual quality, what you can hear on the phone and what you can hear from the speakers at the camera. The other thing that I've also noticed that some cameras that have a companion app, they usually block all local control. And it looks like that the manufacturers have left that door open. So I was able to access the RTSP feed from this camera. I was able to access the current live image or snapshot from this camera. And the camera itself has its own web page. And I was able to access all these features when I've disabled the internet connection for this camera. So my app wouldn't work, but I still able to access my cameras locally on my home network, which I think is a very good thing, because that means that if you are paranoid about anyone else, let's say the manufacturer, able to access your camera or the footage outside, you could block this camera to access the internet, or anyone accessing this camera from the outside internet, but you can still use it internally. So if you have a network recorder, you should be able to connect this camera to it, so you can do central recording, or you can integrate either the feed or the image to your own DIY home automation system. And I'm going to dedicate a separate section in this video for this particular topic. So these are my reasons why I say this is a good $31 camera. It's not the best camera that you can buy in the market, but I think it's a camera that can live up to the price point. Just a quick note how I mounted this camera. So I put it into the kids' playhouse, so it's overlooking part of my garden. I think it's good enough for testing, but this is definitely a temporary setup. I didn't bother about making the connections watertight, and this is just connected to the power adapter that was provided. So that power adapter doesn't appear to be outdoor rated, but I have it in a place where it wouldn't receive any moisture. And this is only a temporary setup. Probably it's going to be here for a couple of weeks, so the power adapter should survive for that period. And as you can see, you can rotate the camera in any direction, so you can mount it wherever you want. There are 3 set screws. One controls whether this rotates, the other one controls this elbow piece, and there is also a 3rd set screw, so you can turn the camera that way as well. So you can pretty much set whatever position you need to. And of course, since you have this big cable bundle, if you are planning to mount it outside and you can't get these cables inside, what I would probably recommend is that you mount the camera to a watertight junction box. You place all these connections within the junction box, and then you put some sort of watertight grommet into that, and that's how you lead the cables. And then just make sure that nothing receives rain or moisture. When you read the instruction manual, it takes you to the process of how you add the camera to your app. But actually, I think I found an easier way of doing that. So first of all, what you do when you power up the camera, always connect it to the local network as well. So on the cable bundle, you see the network jack. So you connect it to your local network. And then come to the app, you click on the plus button on the top right, you select the not network state. I'm not sure what it means, but that's the button you need to click on. And the instruction tells you to click on the Wi-Fi configuration. If you do that, then you provide your SSID and a password, and the app is going to beep the Wi-Fi information over to the camera. Well, first of all, it's annoying, it might not work, and I think there is just an easier way. So if you have the network cable connected, select the wired connection, because obviously, well, it's already connected to the network, you don't have to provide any Wi-Fi details, and then you set up the camera. So then the camera appears on your list in the app, and you can go into the settings, and within the settings you can find the Wi-Fi and then set up the SSID. And once you have done that, you can just disconnect the network cable and then power cycle the camera, and it will connect to the Wi-Fi network. And I think that's a much easier way of setting it up than using the sound transfer method. I'm not sure if I picked the best day for testing. As you can see, there are a lot of clouds, but there is some sun going down. But I think this also represents probably a quite decent or average use case where you have a lot of highly illuminated parts in the scene, especially if you are trying to use this camera in a garden. And as you can see, the white render on my house gets overexposed, but I think in general the image is well lit, so you can see what's really going on. And all the footage is now synchronized, so the delay that you see on the video feed is the actual delay, so I think it's a usual couple of seconds. And since we are here, let me go through the main features of the app. Once you download the app, you don't need to create a user ID and a password. So it's just the app on your phone, and you can see all your different cameras that are from the same brand. Obviously, I just have this K23, so I don't have anything else. Here you can see the main settings and the main details, so you can specify some of the details like how the data is saved, which language to use, and then there is also this nice feature which is the over reminder interval. So it is going to give you reminders whenever you go over, let's say, 1 megabyte of mobile data. So if you are looking at the feed or over the mobile network, that could be quite useful. I haven't seen this before. Also, you can review all the captured photos. I've captured just a single photo from this camera, nothing fancy. And also you can specify some of the alarms functionality. So you can turn the alarms off per camera, but you can do it on the phone level as well. So maybe if the phone is running low on battery or there is a do not disturb mode, then you can just turn it off. And the rest is just about the phone. So going back to the screen, you can see that this camera is online, so it's not going to show you a live footage. It just shows you the latest picture that was received when the app was running, and you can see it's online. You can go into the settings. I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to just click on the play button so you can see me and you can sort of see the delay. It's a couple of seconds. I think that's actually quite normal. This is what I'm used to. I can't really figure out what this small picture is. Maybe this is one of the motion detection recording. It doesn't really do anything. So if you look at the controls, on the top we have the settings, and also we have a notification, so you can turn the notifications from this camera, so motion notifications would get received that way. You have the different mode, whether the stream is VGA or Full HD. Here you can set a privacy code on this camera. So for example, for some reason you want to lock this camera from other users, so you can put a PIN code in, and then you have to confirm that PIN code. So I'm just pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, and this camera is now locked until you put the PIN code in. So I put the PIN code in, and now it's unlocked. And if I want to lock it again, I need to put the PIN code in. So actually this is also quite nice. Maybe you have a lot of cameras around the office or the home. You give access to these cameras, but you want certain cameras to be locked from these users. So you can use this lock. The next feature is the timeline, where you can see all the recordings. This camera is at the moment set up to only record when motion is detected, and I'm not really sure when the last motion was detected, but you can scroll back in time and you can see these red marks. That's when the motion recording was done. So you can see me wandering around. I think it was in the morning. I was checking on the garden, making sure that the sprinklers were running, that sort of stuff. So this is how you can review the recordings. And of course you can select the date, you can go into the calendar, and the calendar shows the days when there was some recordings, and you can just jump to those days and then quickly review those recordings. So that's it. Let me go back to the main view. Okay. And then after a couple of seconds the streaming will start. Okay, it's here. And next we have the motion control features. This is the small camera view, and of course you have the control where you can pan and tilt the camera. This is not a version which has pan and tilt, so the controls are here on the screen, but it doesn't do anything. And there is also zoom, which actually works. I didn't know that this has zoom, but as you can see, the image gets quite grainy, so this is an optical zoom, but still could be useful if you want to zoom into an image and you want to look at a particular area. And of course you have the feature to turn the screen landscape, and you can see the view full screen. So these are the main controls. And on the bottom we have a few more controls. First of all, you can take a picture. Now you can activate the audio. So this camera supports two-way audio. So in the camera I should be able to hear myself. If I press the microphone button, and then it takes a couple of seconds, and then whatever I talk into the phone should be audible through the speakers that are under the camera. And you also have another function. So clicking on this sound icon next to the microphone, you have a broadcasting functionality, which is again, this is a feature which I haven't seen for other cameras. Idea is that you can use the same voice feature, but not only for one cameras, but on a combination of cameras. So here on the top you can add the combination like so. I mean, obviously I only have one device at the moment, but if I would have more of these cameras, then I can add them to, let's say, like a group. So I have this My Cameras group at the moment. So technically, if I talk to these cameras, then all the cameras would play my audio. So yeah, you can broadcast your voice, let's say, throughout your house or throughout the office, wherever you have these cameras. Quite neat feature. I haven't seen this before. And on the rightmost you have a plus button, which opens up a few more features about, like, you can see the recording. So instead of a picture being recorded, now a live video is being recorded on your phone. Or you can go to the device list, which actually just shows me the K23. So now I realize what this lower part of the screen is for. Again, if you would have multiple cameras, you see the main feed here, but you see your other cameras here in the device list. And you can also go to a photo library where you see the pictures that have been taken from your phone here, based on a like in a timeline view. So these are the main control features. Now I should go into the details. So I just click on the cogwheel on the top, and I get into the features, and I get into the settings. I can see the camera information. You can see that I put a fairly small micro SD card in it. I'm running out of micro SD card at the moment. So you can set the time zone, and then you can see the various versions. And when I received the camera, that was a firmware version update. So the guys are definitely working on this one. On the storage, you can set whether the recording mode is a continuous recording or only records on alarms. You can format the SD card. On the image, you have the usual features. So if the camera is mounted upside down, you can mirror the image. You can put the on-screen display, which is the time. You can also set the night vision. If you want to set it on always night vision, you can do it here. Or if you want to disable the infrared LED, you can also do that. And the privacy mode is actually that pin code locking that I was talking about earlier. The alarms, I think this is the part of the camera which works. There are some issues here. So for example, it says that the alarm settings, whether it detects a motion, what it should do, and it says vibrate and sound. Well, obviously it doesn't vibrate and it doesn't make a sound. Some of these cameras would emit an audible, like a siren sound. It doesn't do that, so it is really not clear for me what I can do here. And also there is another option which says alarm zone settings. I can Oh, I'm not sure if you could hear this, but I'm hearing some audio feedback from the camera. And this alert zone settings is not exactly what I expected, because I expected to mark some of the areas of the image where the camera should detect motion, so you can just ignore some of the things where there is a lot of leaves or trees, which is going to create false alarms. But it doesn't seem to be doing that. So the only thing you can do, and now I start receiving about this motion detection, which I haven't received before but still I'm standing here for 5 minutes, so I think this could be a little bit sketchy. Pretty much the only thing you can do is the motion detection settings, which is set to lowest at the moment, because yesterday was a really stormy weather. The sun was out, but there was a lot of wind, and there is a big tree here which was casting a big shadow which was moving around. So I was getting a lot of motion detection warnings, even though there was obviously no one was in the garden. So I set it to lowest, and that seemed to have eliminated these false alarms. But I think I'm getting less of the detection from actual, people moving around in the garden as well. And I've said it in multiple videos, I think this image motion detection is, it's a feature which gets included, but it's a feature which cannot be used very effectively unless you have a camera which is pointing to an area which doesn't have, trees or a lot of shadows. Or, for example, the rain falling, because that's the other thing which usually trips the motion detection. And in the motion detection settings, well, you can pretty much just enable, and you can see what happens on the camera. So it detects the motion, you get a notification on your phone because the notification is enabled, and of course a recording has been created. So that's it. And then finally you have the network, where you can set up what your Wi-Fi user ID and password is, and then you can set the automatic IP, or you can set it manual. So that's nice. So now I'm trying to make a second attempt to demonstrate the two-way audio capabilities of this, and I realized the reason it didn't work because if I have the screen recording running on my phone, then the microphone doesn't work. But if I push the microphone button, I talk to the camera, now you can hear, hopefully my microphone picks it up as well. Now I move my camcorder about 1 meter or maybe 2 meters from the camera, and I'm talking into my phone, and hopefully you can hear how it sounds. I think it's not great sound quality, but in order to talk to somebody, I think it's good. And for the reverse audio test, I've just moved my phone away from the camera. So I'm probably 3 meters from the camera, maybe 2 meters, and now I'm talking directly to the camera, maybe, just standing under the camera. See me in the video feed. So this is what the audio is like. Of course, through through my phone, loudspeakers, and then being picked up by the microphone again. So let me talk about local control. And here on the screen you can see 2 URLs. Because one thing I wanted to check from the beginning, if the camera supports RTSP stream, and it also supports the snapshot URL. And it looks like that it does both of them. So you can see the 2 URLs on the screen. So first of all, this is the stream, actually. So that's the main stream. It's quite, late at the moment, and you can see how the night footage. This is not my first night footage that you see, but sort of this is the live night footage. And of course I'm getting audio as well, but yeah, nothing is happening outside. So this is good. You can integrate it in, many different applications or network recording devices as well. The other thing, sorry, not this one, but this other URL is going to give you the current snapshot in a JPEG file. So again, this is great for, sending it in an email in your DIY home automation system. And this is something that I'm doing all the time with other cameras around my house. So that's a nice feature. I was definitely looking for this one. And by the way, when I was port scanning this camera, that's why I noticed that the port 554 for the RTSP stream is open, and also port 80 is open. And when you just go to port 80, then you are presented with a local control website. So this is the same website that we have seen for so many years with IP cameras, that there was no app, let's say like 5 years ago, but there was always an own dedicated web server running on the camera, and this camera still runs that web server, which is quite nice to see. Because if you don't want to use your phone, you can still access it locally from a browser. Not me, because I didn't install the Flash plugin, so I can't see the feed, but I can still use this one. And for example, if you go to setup, you can set pretty much everything here. So if you never want to use the mobile app, you can just connect it to the network and then use the the built-in web server and then basically access all the settings of the camera. Everything is here, and probably I would say maybe a few more, even a few more details that are on the app. And this is why I said the app is probably still not under development, that there could be new features coming in the future. For example, this screen doesn't exist in the app yet. So there is a lot of stuff here. So if you want to really fine-tune your camera, just come here and then you can make all the changes that you need here. And the other feature that I wanted to see is this one, the playback. It looks like that it has some issues with the dates, because in the mobile app I haven't found the option to download the recordings. So you can certainly view the recordings, but you can't download them. But you come here, you come to the playback, you select it, you click on backup, and then your footage would get downloaded. So easy, and it just comes straight to your hard drive as an MP4 file. And it looks like that all the motion recordings, I mean, my camera is only set up for motion recording, so all the motion recordings are 12 seconds long, and each of these 12 seconds is usually 10 or 11 megabytes. So yeah, and if you look at the footage, I mean, this is how it looks like, and you have seen footage before. Well, this is the quality that you get. And if you look at the codec information, so it is certainly HD resolution, but not the the classic HD quality. And if you look at the where's the codec information, you see it's around 5,000 to 6,000 kilobits per second. So it's not a huge bandwidth. So again, I think this local website is great to make the setup changes, and obviously essential for somebody who doesn't care about the app at all, but still wants to control the camera. And another interesting feature, which is probably should be turned off, if you are trying to type a URL which doesn't exist, you get this 404 not found, but then you also get the directory listing of /home/web from the IP camera. I think they should really turn off the directory listing in the next firmware release. Not that I found anything interesting here, because I couldn't find a folder with the recordings, so I still have to use the the mobile app to search for recordings and download them. That was my review of the Wanscam K23 Wi-Fi IP camera. If you are interested in this product, you find the links in the video description. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.